in our country with his spirit, because wherever his spirit is, there is freedom. So we'll talk about Hagar this morning. Hagar is that right? Hagar. In Turkish, it's Hagar. So in English, excuse me if I pronounce her name differently. Abraham is the father of the nations. He has a great calling from the Lord. And he is promised that his generations would be as many as the stars in the sky. But he's not able to have a son at that time. Let's read the promise of the Lord first. It's Genesis 12, verse 1. The Lord has said to Abraham, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I'll make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I'll make your name great, and you'll be a blessing." That is great, because his name is great. "I'll bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I'll curse. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Abraham was blessed to be a blessing to the nations. He wasn't just blessed to have wealth or to have a great name, but he was called to be a blessing to the nations. However, years passed and his wife Sarah remained childless. They grew impatient, and Sarah suggested that Abraham have a child with her servant Hagar. Well, mankind makes plans. Sometimes, when we feel there's a promise and it is not happening, it's not fulfilling, okay, how can we fulfill this? God plan or good plans? We see in Genesis 16:1, Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. She said to Abraham, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abraham agreed to what Sarah said. We don't know much about Hagar in the scriptures. We know that she's Egyptian. Abraham and Sarah visited Egypt because they were running away from a famine a little bit ago. Most likely, they bought her there and brought her with them. So Abraham had been living in Canaan for 10 years. Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. How often do we grow weary waiting for God's promises? Instead of trusting, we try to take control, right? Have you ever done that? We all have done that. We know God has promised something. And Lord, come on, it has been too long. You promised that. We are going through a difficult time with our oldest son right now. And he has so many promises in his life. I know he has. And I'm like, Lord, you have promised. And sometimes I try to fulfill those promises. Like, what kind of a program I can send him to so that those promises can be fulfilled. Or what can I do for him? And God says, slow down. Be still and know that I am God. You are not, I am God. So don't play God. Sometimes we do that. We want to save people who are hurting. We want to help, especially those we love the most, closest to us. We want to do things for them. And sometimes those things prevent a God solution. Because do we want good solutions or God solutions? We want God solutions, all of us. We have seen those in our lives, but when the difficulty comes, it is difficult to wait. It is difficult to be still. It is difficult to trust Him, I know. But when we rush ahead God's timing, it can lead to pain and conflict. I have a favorite, one of my spiritual fathers says that because God redeems difficult situations so well, sometimes we believe He orchestrated those difficult situations. You know, all He does, Romans 8:28 says, He works for good for all He loves and all called according to His purposes. He changes. You know, we make our mistakes. We try to fulfill His plans, and we end up with the consequences of it. But God takes that and turns into good. He turns curses into blessings, and that's what we see here. Hagar is a slave. Maybe she was born into a slave family because all of the slave children are slaves as well. Maybe she was a free woman before and she lost her freedom because that had happened in the history a lot. If you were not able to pay your debt, for example, your children would be taken as slaves. Or if your hometown was raided, you would be slaves. You just lose your freedom. And sometimes it happens to us when we think that we are free, when we think that everything is going on well in our lives. Then we realize, okay, maybe I'm not so free. Maybe I am slave to my mindset, slave to my fear, slave to the patterns of the world. But God has called us to be free. Hagar conceived. The tension grew between her and Sarah. Feeling mistreated, Hagar fled into the wilderness, where there by a spring of water God met her. And angel of the Lord said, that is in Genesis 16:8, Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? Just like he doesn't know, he knows. He's coming from Abraham's household and she's running away into the wilderness. Just as God asked Adam, Adam, where are you? God knows where we are. God knows where we are. We think He doesn't know where we are, but He definitely knows where we are. God sees the outcast, brothers and sisters, the broken-hearted and the lost. When we feel we are forgotten, when we feel that nobody understands us, when we feel like that guy in the Good Samaritan parable, beaten, left to die on the floor, and everybody's turning their heads to the other side. We feel like we are forgotten. We deserve it. Sometimes we even feel we deserve this. I've done so many bad things. I deserve this. But let me tell you this. He doesn't forget the ones on the floor. He doesn't forget the ones who are outcasts. He doesn't forget. You and I are to be called to neighbors of this guy on the floor. He told Hagar to return, promising that her son Ishmael would also become a great nation. In response to Hagar called God El Roi, meaning the God who sees me. That is in Genesis 16:13. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me, for I have seen the one who sees me. He knows our pain. He knows our fears, our frustrations. He is El Roi, God who sees me. Years later, when Isaac, the promised son, was born, again tensions rose between Sarai and Hagar. And Sarah said, you need to send the slave woman, Hagar, and Ishmael away. Can you imagine? Can you put yourself in Abraham's shoes? He is your son too, and you have to send him away. This must have been heartbreaking for Abraham. But God assured him that he would provide for Ishmael too. We read that in Genesis 21:12 and 13. God said to him, "Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it's through Isaac that your offsprings will be reckoned. I'll make the son of the slave, Ishmael, into a nation also, because he is your offsprings." So Hagar and Ishmael wandered in the desert, running out of water and hope. And when all hope seems lost, God opened Hagar's eyes to the well of the water. That is in Genesis 21:19. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. Sometimes our greatest blessings are right before us, but fear and anxiety blinds us. We can't see it. We still are trying to find our own solutions, because in the end, unfortunately, pride of man wants to say, "Well, I did it. I saved." When God wants to save us, we want to take credit for ourselves. We must trust that God will provide even when we cannot see. And He does that. So, in Hagar's story, we see that God sees our pain. He is El Roi, God who sees. Also, Ishmael means that God hears. When Ishmael was about to die, God heard his cry and provided. And God keeps His promises. Just as He made a great nation from Ishmael, He will fulfill His plans for us as well. So, let's come to our day, to modern day of 2025. We know the offsprings of Isaac are the Jews, and offsprings of Ishmael are the Arabs. Did you know that? Yes. So, both are claiming that we are the true son. We have the inheritance. For thousands of years, the struggle in Israel, and Palestine, and in Jerusalem is about this. Each son still claims, "I am the true heir of Abraham. I deserve this land." But you know what? Let's read John 1:11 and let's see who is the true sons of Abraham. Jesus came to that which was His own, but His own did not receive Him. Yet to all who did receive Him, to those who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God. Children born not to the natural descent, nor of human decision, nor our husband's will, but from God. We are the true Israel, brothers and sisters. We are sons of Abraham. There are Palestinians, there are Jews, there are Chinese, there are Iraqi, Turkish, English, Scottish, Irish. All of those nations are Abraham's son. But you can only come into the kingdom through Jesus Christ. He has given the ultimate sacrifice for us on the cross, so that all the nations can be blessed through Abraham. The offsprings of Isaac as well as Ishmael need salvation through Jesus. And so that we can be reconciled to one another. There is no reconciliation. There is no salvation other than Jesus. Let us read from Acts 4:11. Jesus is This stone you builders rejected, which became the cornerstone. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. His blood, it heals the wounds. Yeah, the lamb that was given to Abraham when he was about to sacrifice Isaac, that we read in the scripture. You know how Muslims tell this parable? They tell the boy who was to be killed by Abraham, they say it was Ishmael. Yeah, because yes, they claim the inheritance, but the reality is there is no salvation without the blood of the Lamb. Blood of the Lamb who was slain on the cross for all mankind. And we see, last few years in Gaza, in Israel, all are doing eye for an eye. They are after revenge. They are after worldly ways to win the war. But one thing we know, that Jesus has already won the battle on the cross for all of us. Before the conflict in Israel, there were churches where Jewish believers and Palestinian believers were worshiping together. Sometimes they didn't speak the same languages. They didn't understand one another. A friend of mine was telling me that in those congregations, Jewish and Palestinian elderly ladies didn't speak their languages, but they gave each other long hugs, that they would just pray for one another. And they were really sad because right now they cannot meet together anymore. The language, Arabic and Hebrew language, both come from the same Semitic language groups. Shalom. Shalom means peace. In Arabic, it's salam. We use it in Turkish. So when an Arabic or a Turkish speaker comes, they say Selamun Aleyküm, which means the shalom, peace of God be upon you. And Hebrew says Shalom Aleihim. The same thing. But at the same time, it's so far, because revenge makes heart so cold that you cannot do anything else but kill. You cannot do anything else but kill. Devil try to make brothers enemies, like we see in Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia, they have been brothers for years, but the devil wants to make them enemies. The same thing for Arabs and Jews, they're brothers, and the devil wants to make them enemies. And Turks, and everyone else, Greeks, Armenians, Kurds, But when we worship together, we have a congregation that is made from so many different nationalities. We have Turkish, like myself, coming from Muslim background. We have Armenians. We have Azerbaijanis who have been in war with Armenia. We have Kurdish brothers. We have Korean brothers. We have English brothers and sisters. We have Americans, all the nations presented there. And what a privilege it is. There will be a day, all the nations will come to the throne room and they will worship the King Jesus. But we have the opportunity to do it right here. What an amazing privilege for that. For that reason, I encourage you when you remember, pray for the church all around the world. We do have buildings that we can worship in, but some don't have places that they can worship. In Iran, if you are caught, worshiping Jesus, you will be jailed. You might lose your life. So, as Hagar's story, let's get back to Hagar's story. God sees our pain, He is El Roi. God hears our cries, and God keeps His promises. He will never leave a promise unfulfilled. We just need to wait for His timing. Thank you so much for this beautiful privilege to be able to share the word of the Lord with you all. Thank you so much.
I've got my own microphone.